Welcome to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. I've got a special guest with me today, Brandon Lilly. Brandon and I and a bunch of other guys got together in Kentucky this year, kind of shared the same camp. So I saw you a little bit there, but wanted to follow up, and we've been following up ever since.
Yeah, I think we had talked about possibly doing a campfire podcast when I was there, but it just worked out. I mean, that was kind of a crazy camp anyway. It seemed like there was a lot of people there, and I know some guys were filming, some guys were hunting, and then once the hunting for one guy was done, the roles traded, and so it just made for a busy camp and probably limited some of the overlap because I tended to stick more to the guys that I was, hunting with or there with, and you guys kind of doing your own thing. And there was some good overlap, but it also prevented, I think, a lot deeper overlap than if it had been 7 or 8 guys there total.
Right. We did shoot a lot of deer, though. There was a lot of deer that were shot.
Yeah, there were. And I mean, looking at some of the bucks that came out from that week, I mean, it was pretty incredible because, Bert got a good one. George got 2 great ones back to back, like just a few minutes apart. And then Bo got one. You guys had some, 3 or 4 bucks down in your group. So it was a pretty awesome camp from a success standpoint. It was one of the harder weeks I had ever hunting Kentucky. I mean, again, I was hunting with my recurve, which obviously presents some limitations, not tremendous, but the behavior, the weather, things that I would typically expect were out of the ordinary. And I think that was fairly common for a lot of people this year. Was just weird interactions with the animals, regardless of state, regardless of what. I mean, it just seemed like a lot of people got some big animals down, but a lot of people struggled that I know were usually pretty successful. So interesting year for sure.
It was very hit or miss, it sounded like, but I don't remember how many guys in our group, maybe 4. All got good bucks. Some got multiple chances at deer. Like it was a fun time. That was my first time down to Kentucky, so kind of a new experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think George, respect to George and the guys at Salt River in Kentucky. I mean, they manage close to 50 farms and roughly 18,000 acres, and I mean, they legitimately work those farms, year round and as hard as anybody can. And I think that's why they get the result they do. But I've loved hunting with George over the years. He's been such a big influence on me as far as helping me get back into it, kind of helping me really just see what a top level deer hunter can chase, because like for me, I was an opportunity hunter for years and, just took what was available. And a lot of times that was does. A lot of times that was driving around with, somebody in a pickup truck and, just field edging. And, when you're a kid, you just kind of do what everybody else is doing or what you see being done or what's available to you. So going to a place like George's, getting to be around some guys like that and seeing the caliber of bucks that those farms hold. And I don't know, I just have a tremendous amount of respect for it, but George has helped me out tremendously over the years. So
yeah, it was great. It was great. Like the stuff that they do is great. Jared and I couldn't help ourselves. Like after, I think because I shot one the first sit.
Yeah.
So we couldn't help ourselves. We just went right into public land and like went down all. I think you went out eventually.
Yeah, I ended up going out there eventually. Yeah, but I think you guys went to a different spot than I did. But yeah, man, there's
big tracks and good deer there.
What's up? We are going to thank a few of these sponsors that help make this beautiful show a reality for all of you. So here we go. So a big reason, I would say, to why we're so successful and we have so many bucks on the wall is because we use HuntWise. HuntWise is a GPS mapping app that you can download on any phone, any platform. You can look up public land huntings, ORV trails. You can get the weather. They actually have a HuntCast 2.0 that they teamed up with Jeff Sturgis to make. It's awesome. You need to check this thing out. Go to HuntWise, download the app.
I feel like if you go into the woods without optics, it's like going into the woods without pants on. Would you agree with that?
To a point.
We are huge fans of running binoculars, spotting scopes, and different things when we hunt, even whitetail. I bring binoculars out every time I go. We choose Vortex Optics because they make the best glass in the business. They have an amazing warranty, super clear glass, super helpful people that work there.
Also, if you want to rep some sweet Vortex swag like this warm shirt on a nice fall day, head over to Vortex Wear, thank you, and use the promo code TFC20 for 20% off your purchase. Saddle game, you need to be in it. If you haven't been in it yet, then you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
Trophy Line Tree Sales makes some of the best saddles in the industry. They have 3 different platforms that we use and that are awesome.
I want to make a quick plug for the Wingman with a couple steps. You can take one less step, stick, and it's like a combination of a stick and a platform. I've been exclusively hunting out of it this year, and my mobile setup is so sweet. I'm very proud of it.
Awesome.
I highly recommend the
Awesome.
Wingman
If you're ready to pull the trigger on that and you want to get with James and do the Wingman, head over to their website and you can save yourself 10% on the purchase. TFC 10 will get you that. I like to think I single-handedly got James to switch to compound again, but I'd probably be a liar and everyone would call me out on that. We shoot prime bows. We think they're awesome. Great accuracy, super shootable.
Made here in Michigan.
Made in Michigan, so we love that. It's hard to complain.
That's where Jared was made. So
we
surprisingly,
like that.
Yeah.
Welcome. So go check out these prime bows.
We are of a firm belief that the arrow is the lifeblood of the archery industry. We've said it 1,000 times. But in all seriousness, we are huge fans of arrows that are durable, that fly well, and that kind of make up for some of my inaccuracies in the way that I shoot. So we shoot Vector custom arrows.
The hammer.
The hammer.
That's Thor.
They are made in Wisconsin by our buddy Isaac. Great arrows. And if you want to go and get yourself some, have a little bit of a discount, use TFC10 for 10% off. Or call Isaac up and tell him we sent you.
Mm-hmm. You want his phone number? Comment below.
Yep, comment below.
Yeah, Kentucky's got a lot of good public land. I was hunting the Georgetown track, Veterans Memorial in Georgetown. And I met up with some guys from Connecticut, and they had been – it was Connecticut or Vermont. Maybe it was a blend. But nevertheless, they were from way up northeast. They've been coming down to Kentucky, that spot, since 14. And they've all – they all killed great caliber bucks.
Yeah.
The main guy that I talked to, probably a high 140, 150 public land class buck. And then I think the other 2 guys that were with them shot 130s. So I don't know where people fall on that, but either one of those deer walk in the field with me, I'm proud to shoot.
Yeah.
One.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just I am not privileged enough as a hunter, and maybe not patient enough as a hunter to sit and blow a season because of one giant deer.
Right.
I like the meat, I like the hunt, and I just think Kentucky has some real potential. I think I was 7 feet eye to eye on the ground with probably a high 130, 140 caliber buck at that same spot in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was walking some track trails and really just trying to find a spot to hang a saddle.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down this lane. I've got my bow in my hand, my bag on my back, and turn a bend, and he turns a bend, and we're literally face to face with one another. And I was listening to a guy talk about what you can get away with a deer. And, I was doing everything right in that moment because he stopped, of course, and he's like, what the heck is this guy doing? And I'm like, please keep doing what you're doing, which is just standing there. And I got the arrow down, got it around the arrow, and I did this so slow. And as soon as I got it knocked, of course, like, okay, I'm on the string, so get on him, right?
You're right.
Well, all those small, calculated, slow movements turned into this one big sweeping desire to shoot. And he had stayed until the movements got sweeping and aggressive. You know what I mean? Like, he was just watching what I was doing with some, I would probably consider it some sense of curiosity, like, moving the arrow around, not really making any noise, not making too much movement. And then you swing this big 62-inch bow up to draw on, and it was like he was gone instantly. So I would like
if you're like me, it's like, you're shaking like crazy. Yeah, it's not fluid at that point.
No, it was just try to get it up there and hope for the best. At 7 feet, you're probably not going to miss much, but nevertheless, it was an intense moment. And that's really, if you were to pare down my year to a moment that encompassed all, that was it. Like, I had opportunities, but either I wasn't prepared, you know, the wind would swirl or something there was just so many moments that went against me, that it just made it a challenging year for a lot of reasons. But like I said before, probably learned more this year than I have in the last 5 or 6. So
yep.
you
No,
can't kill them
I had
all.
the same year. I had the same type of year. Like you said, I got close to a lot of nice deer. Like best probably season I've ever had in terms of getting close to them. But I shot one, but I just got just close and something didn't go right. I didn't make the right move, and I had one where I bumped my trigger, my release. And so I don't know, like those are, you learn, I'm sure I learned this year way more than I've ever learned because of that, but kind of sucked in the moment.
Well, I'll be honest, not to pare it down to this one hunt, but the first hunt of the year was in March in Argentina. And I got the recurve at the end of December. So I really had 3 months to kind of get myself acclimated. And I did. I mean, I shot religiously. I mean, I don't think there was a day that went by that I didn't shoot at least 50 arrows, but I was between 100 and 200 arrows a day, splitting it up over 10 to 20 arrow groups or 10 to 20 arrows at a time over the course of the day. So I go to Argentina and everything's going well. I feel confident with the bow. Never really called in a big game animal. I'd never hunted elk with a bugle or anything. So getting to hear a stag roar, and where I hunted in La Pampa was amazing. I mean, this place is known for the hinds that it holds the females, and the stags all come in during the roar. So we had a theater of stags around us at all times, and that created a lot of opportunity and a lot of chances for stalks and whatnot. And I ended up getting to 11 yards. I saw a stag at 80 yards and called him into 11 and made what I still feel is at least a lethal shot, if not close to a perfect shot. And we never recovered him. And man, that was probably one of the hardest feelings I've had to deal with in hunting, because I've lost a doe or two in the past, and right or wrong, there's just not the level of maybe perfection isn't as demanded by the does, because when you're hunting a doe, you're kind of doing a service to the herd and to the land and for the meat. When you're hunting a buck, you pretty much are reducing that hunt down to a trophy. You're trying to find an animal of mature age with a certain look and a certain aesthetic. So this was the first time I'd lost an antlered animal. And, there's a multitude of reasons for that. I shot him perfect. He ran into literally the thickest, gnarliest stuff that we could possibly see, in all of our area. If he'd run in any other direction, he would have been safe. But as a wild animal does, it goes where it needs to go to be hidden. And just kind of set the tone for a rough year. Like I had some successful hunts for sure, but every time that I would start to feel like, okay, I kind of broke the curse, something else would happen, it's just hard. I mean, it is just hard. And I think after 2021, where I literally was successful on every hunt but one, and really got some great animals last year. Well, no, I was completely successful. I didn't hunt mule deer in Arizona last year. I killed an elk. So, I was 100% last year. And I think that opened the ego up to even entertaining the recurve a little bit. Like, well, the compound's gotten too easy, so I'll do the recurve. And man, it is a different beast, but it also showed me, well, I'll take you back to a story in that hunt. I was hunting with Nick Morton from Australia. He and James from Australia, and Australians can hunt pretty much year round, and they kill a ton of mountain pigs over there. Yeah. They're constantly chasing pigs. Owner of an arrow company, owner of a broadhead company, owner of a bow shop. I'm imagining Nick getting kills on these stags and these fallow deer 50, 60, 70 yards, like the very much Americanized model.
Sure. Yep.
And talking to him, he said, man, he said, I don't know. He's like, I shoot 50, 60 yards sometimes, but like, I don't think I've shot an animal over 25 yards in 6 years.
Right.
And I was like, that was probably the epiphany moment that changed the course of me as a hunter, because I was becoming a better shooter. I was maximizing my bow's capabilities. I was getting, the best sight I could, the best arrows I could, the best everything that I could to mitigate the fact that I wasn't getting closer.
Right. Yeah.
And when I kind of had that moment in my head where, are you a good hunter or are you a good shooter that kills? And I definitely classify myself more as that shooter that kills. And so the recurve almost forced my hand into becoming a better hunter.
Absolutely. Yep.
And for guys that look at it and they're like, I wish I could try it, or I want to try it, but I don't know. I think the payoff from skill capability and acquisition came in spades.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this year was kind of like in the muck and the mud of all the trial and error. Next year will likely see me a little more comfortable and confident in those settings, and which I think by proxy means some more success.
Well, exactly. And I actually think I'd rather be good, because I've tried, be a good hunter. I've tried so hard and maybe failed a lot, than just being successful a lot. Like, I'd rather kind of be good than just shoot a lot of animals.
Well, me too. And, do you ever think about why do guys get so ego driven about what they use to kill?
Right.
Even when I shot that elk with a rifle, even in the back of my head, it was like, well, that was easy. I mean, it was a long shot, which was one of the goals that I had. I either wanted to be super close with a rifle or take a long shot, which I'd taken some courses on and done some prone shooting at extreme distance. So I wanted to utilize my skill set.
Sure.
But even in the moment, like when I shot it, I was like, man, that was easy.
Right.
It was, and I don't know why easy is always a bad thing in men's minds or hunters' minds too. Like, you kill something on day one with a rifle, you're just a piece of shit.
It's like,
if you grind it out to the very end with a recurve, people are like, man, you're the man. But it's like, both were successful. Both were, on the animal with the chosen weapon that we wanted. Like, why do we get so defensive of what we use? But I'm guilty of it. And I'm going through that now, because having pretty much dedicated to the recurve and then being afforded a couple opportunities to hunt with my compound. The people I hunted with on my compound, one being Levi Morgan, he's one of the best guys in the world at a compound. So watching him shoot kind of inspired me to get back to like, okay, I was a good shooter. I'm not nearly that good. So
exactly.
It created a new gap for me to chase. And then also all the work that I did with the recurve, learning how to tune arrows, tune my bow. I'd always outsourced that stuff for my compound. So I wanted to go back and learn that stuff. So yeah, man, I just enjoy being a hunter. I do take a lot of pride in learning the recurve and hunting with that. But dude, I'm working harder with my compound than I ever have.
Yeah.
And as I said, I dedicated to learning the rifle at distance. So I think there's something pretty cool, and dare I say even better to have multiple skill sets, like
it also means you can hunt more. Like,
yeah,
do them all. So isn't that really the goal? If we get ego out of the way, it's just really about how many times in a year can I be in the woods hunting?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think that for me, I have kind of reached that point of exhaustion the last two years with the hunting season, which I'm trying to debate out how to handle that moving forward, because, you go on 2 or 3 hunts a year, maybe a turkey hunt in the spring and a couple deer hunts in the fall. That feels like you're always kind of chomping at the bit for the next one. It kind of makes it nice. Whereas I hunted Argentina, I hunted Africa, I hunted Kentucky, I hunted Ohio, I hunted Texas, I hunted Arizona. I was hunting all over, and I was hunting like in Kentucky. I think I hunted a total of 40 days, and killed two does, maybe. I can't remember. I killed one doe in Kentucky. So it was a lot of hunting for.
Where do you live?
Just the south of Lexington. It's a town called Berea in Kentucky.
Okay.
So I'm local here. Not about an hour from Georgia's down the interstate.
Okay. I didn't know you're down there. All right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I found though that hunting in your home state is kind of there's like I like it a lot. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I'm more connected to it. I want to be able to be a good hunter, but especially, we're in Michigan, like a good Michigan hunter.
Yeah.
A little bit
No,
too.
I think I hunt with a couple guys, actually 3 guys from Michigan out in Oklahoma. And one of those guys is Jamie Drouillard. He's a archery pro and works as a pro staff at Adams Archery and just outside of Ann Arbor, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly where it is, but Adams is a great shot. Jamie's a great shop. Jamie is a great bow tech and friend. And then my buddy Dan and Gerald live up there as well, but we hunt Oklahoma together. And again, I was a paper plate killer. Like if you can hit a paper plate, you can kill a deer. That was kind of the shop that I grew up in.
Yeah, sure.
And learned
Absolutely.
around.
Yep.
And when I started hunting with those guys, Jamie being a tournament archer, and I think Dan and Gerald both may have done some target stuff, but nevertheless, they all shot at Adams and very dedicated to being precision shooters. So whenever I get excited by people that are better than me, like, oh, you can actually do this much better. You can actually shoot, golf ball size groups at 50 yards, not a paper plate. I began getting fascinated with maybe the art of archery. So I would drive 5 hours to Jamie and let him build my bows.
Yeah.
I was leaving Kentucky, driving up there, seeing him, letting him put strings on, letting him tune out my arrows and everything. And nothing against the 5-hour drive, and definitely nothing against Jamie. But I also wanted to have some accountability to myself. Like I wanted to understand what my setup would be. Jamie and I have same draw length. Bows are very similar, but that's Jamie's setup. And it got me very close, and it helped me realize, okay, what do you need from this gap to be exactly what you would want? So I'm in that stage right now. Like I probably have more knowledge, in the field and in time behind the bow than ever before. But I'm also at a point where I'm like, man, I want to forget as much of that stuff as I can and start over with this new set of information. And it's been fun. It's been really fun for me.
Yeah. No, it's fun to be part of the process. And like you said, you go to a shop, and they'll get you really close, but sometimes that final little tweaking. So sometimes it's like you go in French tune, or I like to call it freedom tune.
Yeah.
You go out, do stuff like that, where it's just like one little bit, you hone it in a little bit more. It's a lot of fun. Let's jump into a few questions. So, we've done a little bit of background of your hunting, but I mean, you are a retired world-class powerlifter, right? I think you're the first powerlifter we've had on this podcast.
Well, I'm a recovering powerlifter. We'll put it that way. I was injury retired. Actually, I was on top of the sport, ranked pretty much at the top of the sport, or in the argument for top of the sport at the time, when I was coming off of 2 world championships in 2014 and started out, competed. I was at the LA Lakers Staples Center in LA, competition that I hadn't really planned on doing, coming off of a championship, being in Australia for a couple of weeks after that, going to Mexico for a week or so after that. And really after my competition, it wasn't like I was, coming off the chain and just losing my mind, but I enjoyed myself. I indulged in food. I indulged in some alcohol. I didn't necessarily train like I was competing for a championship, because I wasn't at the time. I just won. So kind of enjoying the spoils, and kept getting a call from this promoter about his competition. And, we'd love to see you there. We'd like to help you get there. We'd love to pay for your room. Every phone call just kind of sweetened the deal. And I still wasn't going. And actually a guy that I have a ton of respect for and is a friend now, didn't know him then, but he had just said, yeah, I think I can beat Brandon Lilly. Well, money aside, all that other stuff aside, I would like to say that I listened to my pride and wanted to put my name out there, but it was really ego and fear of not being the man. So I go to this competition somewhat peaked from my last competition, but definitely not peaked for a competition. And I'd been on vacation for a few weeks, as I mentioned. So I trained like crazy for about 3 weeks, just trying to get myself even back to a respectable level of strength. And took my opener, it felt heavy. Took my second, had a misstep, so it gave me red lights, and I had to repeat it on my third. I'd only planned to take those 2 attempts, but having to repeat it on my third, as soon as I start to go down, my left knee somewhat twisted and rotated in. And that leg was as if you took a drumstick from a chicken leg and the, the thigh and just twisted it, because it was a spiral tear. It tore every ligament, every tendon, broke my kneecap, and did a lot of damage to my left knee. And then my right knee was a little less than that, but still required pretty extensive surgery. But I had 19 surgeries on my left knee. So
I saw the video. It's horrible. That is absolutely awful.
It's a pretty bad one. And I used to watch it every day, like as a reminder of no matter how high you climb in this life, it can be over in an instant, and when that happened, my world kind of collapsed around me, because I'm an all-in kind of person, whether it's good or bad, I tend to just be to the limit. And that's where I was with powerlifting. It was my money. It was my hobby. It was everything. And when I got hurt, pretty much within about 2 weeks of that moment, I went from being supported by sponsors and competition, being able to make a living, to I don't know how I'm going to live, because every sponsor but Sornex walked away. And Sornex was not even like an active sponsor. It was just more of like, when we found things that we could work on together, we would work on them.
Right.
And it was just kind of a collaboration deal at that point. And I went to Bert, and I just told him, I said, man, if you guys let me go, I'm pretty much cooked. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't want to be an athlete. I don't want to be a sponsored athlete. I want to work here. If you need a janitor, I'll clean the floors. If you need somebody to open the place up, I'll do that. Whatever you need, I just need a job. Here's how much money my bills are. Here's how much money I would like to make so I can pay my bills and, go to a movie every once in a while. Like I wasn't asking for very much at all. I just wanted to be able to live.
Yeah.
And Bert's exact words were, well, he said, I think you've got something really great within you. He's like, I don't know exactly where you'll fit in right this second, but we'll figure it out. And, going on 6.5, 7 years later, here I am. So Bert probably gave me a door to walk through that not only changed the course of my life, but probably at that point in time saved it. I was very, very emotionally gone, and, the pain meds were a problem. I didn't necessarily get addicted to them, but I would not take them for 7 or 8 days, and then I would have a bad day and I'd take 7 or 8 pain pills. Right. Yep. It was that kind of deal. And a lot of dark days, a lot of worry and uncertainty. But, one thing is for sure, that Sornex job led to the outdoors. It led to Sornex Outdoors, and it led to me somewhat living the life that I do. So I try to remind myself that a lot when I'm having a bad day, or I think, man, boo-hoo, life sucks. Life has sucked, and it certainly doesn't suck now. There are things about it that can suck on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
It is an overall. I was just talking about it last night. Like, my life has been impossibly good relative to what it should have been.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting how that goes, and a drive like that can push you to great things, but it can also, it can go bad too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point in this did you, start getting into the outdoors? I mean, is this part of, have you always done this, or is this newer?
Well, definitely newer in the sense of how I'm doing it. Like I said, when I was younger, it wasn't hunting for the reverence, or like, because it meant something to me. It was just like, oh, we're going to go hunt, shoot guns. And, if we kill a deer, great. So that was my introduction. I wouldn't say it was a bad introduction, because we had a lot of fun times. There were many days we never even shot a gun, but we had fun.
Yeah.
So that was probably the drop in the pond to get me interested in the outdoors. But fast forward to my powerlifting days, I was a thrower in college.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty demanding. And then right out of college, got married, had a job, had a kid. All that stuff was very demanding. And then years went by, and we kind of went our separate ways. And I was doing the powerlifting thing hardcore full time. And, I'm 350 pounds at this point. When I was at my biggest, I was 350. At my best, I was about 330. 350 came after the injury, when I was just trying to pack on weight. But I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it forever. Like, I was already starting to see the writing on the wall. Like, even though I came back and competed, at a very high level, believe it or not, through 11 or 12 surgeries. I kept coming back and kept getting infection, kept getting back, getting infection. I started to look for something else to do. And, I was listening to Rogan quite a bit, and came across Cam Haines on that podcast. And this would have been probably one of his first ever podcasts that was on there. This was like 16, 17, somewhere in there. And this is probably 2018 when I'm listening to it. So I'm going back a little bit. And I find his episode, and like just the guy's outlook on never giving up, never accepting weakness, always pushing harder, always going a little bit further than the next guy. And then also the success in the field. It just seemed like that's a mentality that I had as far as for powerlifting, and I lost it when I got hurt.
Right.
I needed to reinvent myself in some way, and needed to find something that I could tie my focus and my excitement towards. So I started, literally at 350 pounds, 19 knee surgeries. I was like, I don't even know if I can walk a mile. Like, I literally mean that, because when I was powerlifting, I didn't know cardio.
Right.
I can remember one time going to the mall at Christmas, and I was like park bench hopping in the mall. Like, everyone that I could sit down on, I would sit down on, but 500, 600 feet at a time, lower back would get pumped. I'd start sweating. It just wasn't a good self-image. And I was like, I don't even know if I can walk a mile, but I know at 350 pounds, I'm like, die soon if I don't.
Right.
So I went out, I walked a mile. Well, lo and behold, I walked a mile from my truck. So I turned around, and it's like, I got to go a mile back. And I was like, do you think you can jog it? And I was like, I will jog as much as I can. So, and I'm talking like arms were moving fast, but feet were kind of shuffling thing.
Yeah. Right.
But I made it back. So I was like, I did 2 miles. And dude, that was all it took, because the next day I was like, I think I can do a 5K. And I did a 5K. And I was like, maybe I could do that again. So I did it again for the next day. And then I did 7 miles just to see if I could. And then literally about 10, 12 days into the whole process, I was like, I want to run a half marathon.
No.
So I start running this half marathon, and I'm like, well, that's an idiot. Just a pussy start something with half in the name.
Yeah.
So
half doesn't seem right. Yeah.
So I ended up doing a marathon at 300 plus pounds. No business doing it. It took me 8.5, 9 hours. It was like a snail's pace, but I did it. Like, I committed to something and finished it for the first time in a long time. And that just set the wheel in motion. Cam saw that and kind of encouraged me a little bit. And then I got with Sornex and did a 100,000 meter row in a day. And through that, started talking to Bert more about getting in the outdoors. I knew he was into that, and talking to some other guys. But Cam was kind of the genesis. And then, not saying that I don't follow Cam now, but he just blew up into such a figure that the back and forth messages that we had just like they had to stop. Like, we weren't friends. He was just supportive and encouraging.
Yeah.
But, he blew up. And then I found a couple other guys, like Remy Warren was a guy that I really stuck to and found a lot of interest in. Green Tree down in Australia, which introduced me to Nick down in Australia, and on and on and on. I started finding these men that were just, incredible outdoorsmen and really capable hunters, and they fed their families and they showcased the whole process.
Yeah.
And that was where I wanted to be. I wasn't necessarily like, I got to kill a big elk. I just wanted something like, in a world where I had thought I was the man, lost the ability to take care of myself. Now I wanted to work towards actually being able to take care of myself.
Yep.
And that was the reintroduction to hunting, was just wanting to be able to put food in the freezer, wanting to know that if shit ever hit the fan, that I could at least capably pursue an animal and be successful. Like, I don't know where that came from, other than just the timeline I told you. But when COVID hit, that really started to become kind of like, so I'm 18, 19, kind of reintroducing myself to the woods. 20 hits, and it's like, dude, I'm glad you got this 2-year backbone of starting on this, because I don't know what's coming down the pipeline, but I do know how to hunt animals, and I do know how to kill animals. So I felt like I had a leg up, and that just led to more training. Like, I want to learn how to do a bow drill to start a fire. I want to learn how to do these kind of things, just wanted to be a capable human. And for me, that just immediately invoked the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing how many people were, actually use social media in a good way to at least get introduced to people that support them in doing these types of things, like you said, through campaigns, or even just get information. I mean, you can hate on social media a lot, and there's mostly junk, but there is good material out there that will show you how to do a lot of this kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, dude, I think that, the number one podcast that I listen to is Kafaru Cast, and Aaron and that crew out there. I mean, Aaron's about as deadly a human being as there is with a bow of any kind. And just his no bullshit attitude, his willingness to say that something doesn't work the way it's advertised as working, or doesn't work the way that he thinks it should work. Like, you have to agree with his opinion, but for somebody to give their opinion, he has the time invested to give a very, very valid one.
Yeah.
So his work on the podcast kind of drove me further into that more. Yeah, I don't just want to be a casual hunter. I want to do this as an outdoorsman. I don't just want to be a hunter. I want to photograph. I want to camp. I want to hike. I want to hunt. So all of it.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, you can still shoot a lot of animals. You go to a bunch of different outfitters. You do the thing. You can do it, and it is fun to do. But to know it and to be able to do it yourself is just very fulfilling too.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so part of this series is great hunting stories, right? So you've been hunting a lot of different places. You've listed off, a dozen places by now that you've been.
Yep.
When you think of a great hunting story, what comes to mind?
I mean, there's no hunting story that is as deeply good for me as when I share a camp with people. And really, I had a camp in Hawaii on axis deer with a group of guys: Ryan Mickler, Rick Trimmer, Matt Schmigdal, Scott Davis, and a couple other guys were out there. And we ended up talking about it and putting in to go to Minnesota. Matt owns a farm up in Minnesota. And to get there, it's the same group of guys plus a couple others.
Yep.
We had already had a really good year, or a really good time in Hawaii. So fast forward a few months and we're whitetail hunting in Minnesota. Great group, beautiful property. It's Matt's family's land. So he was like taking us through all that. And, for me, I was certainly not expecting to kill a really big deer. And Matt had told us that right up front. He's like, we have deer, we have good bucks. We don't have just exceptional bucks. We have just good 130 type class, 140 maybe class. So hunt's coming on, and I'd shot some does. A couple of the other guys had shot some does, shot a buck. Ryan shot a really nice buck up there, Ryan Mickler. And it's getting down to like the last day or two, and Matt pulls me aside. He's like, man, I got a spot I love, and there's a big buck in here, but we've never seen him except on camera, maybe once or twice. I was like, okay, well, this is 6:45 in the morning. He walks me back to the stand, and
still dark out.
Just the edge of light, like it was coming up over the horizon, but it was basically dark 10 feet in front of your face, like you couldn't see for a good ways. So he shows me. Amazing setup inside this tree. I climbed up the ladder, but it was like the tree was wrapped all the way around me, so I had no vision of a silhouette whatsoever if a deer looked up, and I had a hole cut out in front of me. So it was like I was already feeling really good, protected, and invisible. So start seeing some does come around. Actually, they surprised me coming from my left, because he had said everything typically comes right to left.
Yeah.
Well, they come up out of the left, and I'm like, dude, I'm texting one of the guys, like, I got a doe at 65 yards. I'm about to take a shot. And he was like, man, that's far for a shot. And I was like, dude, it's a doe, and I've done it before. Like, I can hit this doe. And he was like, man, just wait. I think something's going to happen. Well, sure enough, as soon as I hit, all right, I'll wait. I look up and I see a buck walking in the field. And I am a sucker for a typical 8-point or 10 point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to me, you can have all the mass in the world. You give me that, like I said, that 130, 140 class 8-point or 10-point that's symmetrical and just beautiful.
Yep.
Dude, I'm done. Like, that's me all day long. So I'm focusing on this deer, and he's walking out, and man, I am itching to shoot because he was beautiful. And he walks out in the field in a straight line, and he's coming broadside. and it's like 5-10 more yards, maybe I'm going to have a lane to shoot. And all of a sudden this big buck runs out from behind him. And, you know, they're now parallel bodied. So they're side by side, horn to horn, rib cage to rib cage. So now I can't shoot. It's like if I shoot at this deer, I hit the other one. So it stays like this for a few minutes. You know, it's kind of like watching the horse down the Derby, the final stretch. You know, one's nose would pull a little bit ahead, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the chance, and then the other would pull ahead. So it was kind of this deal. And I'm watching, and I'm up there, and bow's in my hand. The cam is resting on my left knee because I'm a right-handed shooter. So I'm just like sitting there waiting. Well, and all this going on, the bow just started to tilt, and it kind of hit something and ding, like just made a sound. So the front buck, the symmetrical buck, turns, and now these two bucks are making a T. So if the symmetrical 8 points asshole was drawing you put a laser pointer in it, it would have gone through the back rib of the big buck.
Okay, sure.
So,
facing it.
Yeah. So like they were making a T, and the bigger buck's head was to the left. All his vital organs were exposed to the left of that body of the deer.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is going to be my chance. So I draw, and dude, he must have watched me draw, because as soon as I drew back and put my eye to the peep, I saw the symmetrical deer, his front hoof came up, and he was going to stomp. So as he was coming down with his hoof, I can see all this in my peripheral, and I just go, boom, smoked that deer. Like absolutely perfect shot. Deer went down, literally hit it. It took about 3 steps, fell on its front legs like this.
The snow plow. Okay.
Yeah, he stood up and then went right back down. He didn't move at all. Like it was just, and to tell you the truth, I'd had an arrow built at around 540 grains and a 125 head with a 50 grain collar. For this hunt, I was supposed to hunt pigs right after it.
Yep.
So I was going a little bit heavier. I'd gone to a 565 arrow.
Yeah.
So when it hit it, that kinetic energy just like
just
popped it. And I've never seen a deer behave that way. And the fact that it literally took it like a rifle shot, stumbled, stood up, and went down, never moved again.
The big one, right? You're saying you shot the big one. Yeah.
The big one. And he ended up being 13 points on a 10-point frame. I'm sorry, he was on an 8-point frame, had 13 points, had some inlines, had some crazy kickers, had double split G2s. Just a lot of funk, you know, and really a beautiful deer. You know, as far as having the deer that I thought that's the deer of my dreams versus this is just a bigger deer with an ethical shot. I didn't have any regret afterwards once I saw him and got to study him, you know, because he was beautiful. He was gorgeous. I just don't love a bunch of trash. I don't like when they get all gnarly. And that's not
clean.
Yeah, I like that look. So, but I got one of those in Texas this year. But that hunt in Minnesota probably stands out as one of my favorite, just because of the group of guys I was with. And that's true of all my camps. Like my favorite camp ever is the guys in Oklahoma. Like they're my boys, and they're my type of guys. But camp is always going to be, the people that you're with is going to be a high standard for what makes a good hunt, even when I'm unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But as far as just having 2 quality shooter deer in the field at the same time, kind of in that neck and neck, nose and nose situation, it took what was seemingly a calm, this is going to be a 30-yard shot, super simple broadside on an 8-point, to, okay, I don't even know if I'm going to get a shot in this field, because as they were drifting left, you know, I've got a window to shoot because I told you I had that hole cut out. So they're edging towards that closeness of the edge. So I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. And I'm glad that I was able to kind of focus in that high stress moment of knowing that deer had seen me, or at least seen something. He's getting ready to stomp. And still, literally, that's still the best shot of my life.
Because it can all fall apart right there. That's if it's going to, that's the spot it will.
Yeah, and to be honest, I had a miss like that this year on a pig. I was out there in Oklahoma and just had this. I mean, it was the equivalent of missing a Volkswagen Beetle. You know, like that's how big this pig was. And I had seen him coming, and I was kind of cresting these little ridges, but I could see him working my way. And this is last light, 15, 20 minutes before sundown. And he comes around, And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to happen. He's going to come to 10 yards, 5 yards, whatever it is. He's coming straight at me. So he comes up over this little berm and stops. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Like, it's the biggest head I've ever seen on a pig. And, you know, I'm at 11 yards from this thing, and I go to draw. And I did draw successfully, and I go to let go. And in my aiming, I must have just collapsed a little bit because the arrow shot just left of him and hit a tree and went kind of off. But yeah, it was just one of those deals, man. Like, you're so dependent upon your training.
Yeah.
And I had done a lot of high stress induction shooting with my compound intentionally, but with my recurve, it was more like just be methodical, hit your shot, no stress. Just you miss one, take it easy. So when the stress hit in that situation, I wasn't foreign to it, but I was also not used to holding back and like fighting that tension.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I think that's what collapsed when I panicked. So coming home, I worked on that a lot more. Was able to go back up there and kill some more pigs not too long ago. So it's all a process, man. And you know, I don't know the advice that I would give somebody as far as to get to a point where you're confident and capable. But the only thing that I know is that the more I do stuff, the better I get at it. So reps has always been my focus. You know, if you can stalk pigs and you want to kill an elk one day, stalk pigs. You know, you're at least stalking an animal. You're going to get reps. You're going to learn behavior. You're going to learn things. And that's what I'm trying to do now, is just realize that hunting is not, oh, it's whitetail hunting or elk hunting or mule deer hunting. I'm trying to piece this thing together like a big world map. Like, if I can do all of these things, I can kill any species I attack.
Yep.
You know, that's where I want to be.
It's a bigger picture. Even looking at the season as more than just a series of single event hunts.
Yeah.
Like, your season is a hunt. It's just different moments in it.
Yeah.
And with a little, you know, some right training and just a lot of time, you can go out there and be a great hunter. It's just like you said, reps in the field. Huge believer in that. It's nothing exciting or like, you know, like this one thing changed my life. It's just like day in, day out, failing in different ways, learning different situations.
Yeah, fail forward. That's the old cliche, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Well, hey, we're coming up on time here. Brandon, thank you for taking all the time to talk and to share some of your story and some of your approaches to hunting and stuff. It's really actually fun to follow you on social media. So
I appreciate
for people
it.
who are listening, like you got to check out some of the things you're putting out. Well, how can people find you?
I run 2 Instagram pages. One, which is more like me, my hunting, kind of a lifestyle page, I guess you would say, or just me, Brandon Lilly 3, Lilly, and the number 3. And then a page more dedicated to training, nutrition, that kind of thing is Peace, Love, and Meat. All one word, Peace, Love, and Meat as one big tagline. Getting ready to fire up some stuff on there. I was kind of quiet through the holidays, but yeah, I got a lot of stuff coming on both pages as I move forward. So excited about all of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Everybody go check them out. Brandon, thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you, and hopefully we get to share camp together again soon.
Absolutely.